1997 and heavy rock albums. This is kind of a year when music in general was going to shit. Alternative bands were getting worse, the whole industry was kind of fucked up at the time. Several veteran-era rock bands had to settle for independent labels, and with the major labels focusing on nu metal and some shitty alternative knockoffs. Many of the heavier and veteran heavy metal bands had to settle for the small venues, something similar that they did back in the early days. First, I'm going to start off with Geezer Butler's GZR with the album Black Science on TVT Records. This would be the second album by the band. This would be the first album to feature new vocalist Clark Brown, who replaced original vocalist Burton C. Bell, who was busy focusing on Fear Factory. Similar to the debut album, but this time focusing more on diverse songwriting and more industrial influence. My go-to tracks on the album would be Man in the Suitcase, Box of Six, Has to Be, Area Code 51, and Among the Cybermen. I have the original 1997 pressing of the album, but there is a reissue in a box set called Manipulations of the Mind, which feature all three Geezer Butler albums, plus a fourth disc full of rarities. 2, we have Testament with the album Demonic, Burnt Offering Records. This would be their 7th album, this time focusing more on thrash metal, death metal, and groove metal. This album is a much more heavier and darker approach than the previous albums before, with Chuck Billy mostly focusing on death metal style vocals, and Eric Peterson's guitars even have a more sludgier sound. The album also features drummer Gene Hoglan, as well as Derek Ramirez on bass, who was originally the band's lead guitarist at one time. Some longtime fans of the band might even have a hard time getting used to this album. The songs from this album do not show up in the band's live set anymore, but my go-to tracks would be Demonic Refusal, The Burning Times, Murky Waters, and Hatred's Rise might be my favorite track on the album. Number 3, Fate's Warning, A Pleasant Shade of Grey, Metal Blade Records. This would be the band's 8th full-length album. This album is one song, separated into 12 different tracks. This album is darker and features progressive and industrial influences, with guitarist Jim Matheos, vocalist Ray Alder, and featuring Armored Saint bassist Joey Farah and former Dream Theater keyboard player Kevin Moore. And we can't leave out drummer Mark Zonder. I want to say that tracks 2 and 7 are my favorite, but it's best to just listen to the whole thing from start to finish. The album got great reviews by sources such as Rock Hard Magazine and AllMusic.com you can go check out. I was slightly familiar with the band Fate's Warning before this release, but this album got me more into the band and their back catalog as well. And being a fan of Metal Blade Records and their onslaught of compilation albums, that's what helped me discover great artists such as Fate's Warning. Number 4, Megadeth, Cryptic Writings, Capitol Records. This would be their 7th album and final album to feature drummer Nick Menza. Several songs on the album feature radio-friendly alternative metal cuts, something different from the previous releases. Cryptic Writings went number 10 in the Billboard 200 and was certified gold as well. Fans of the band might not like the album due to the style change, but I find the album good. It is a good start to finish album, but my go-to tracks would be Trust, Almost Honest, Use the Man, I'll Get Even, A Secret Place, and She-Wolf. Number 5, Judas Priest, Jugulator, CMC International. This would be their 13th studio album, and the first album to feature new vocalist Tim Ripper Owens. The style of this album even went darker and even more thrashier than previous releases, as well as lower tuned guitars. The singles of the album are Burn in Hell and Bullet Train, but the song I like a lot the most probably would be Bloodstained. Many fans of the band were butthurt due to the style change, the more thrash elements, the lack of melodic guitars, and of course the new vocalist replacing Rob Halford. Number 6, Body Count, Violent Demise, The Last Days, Virgin Records. This is their 3rd album, and probably my 2nd favorite album they put out. And there are people that are unfamiliar with this band, and that Ice-T is the vocalist, as well as founding member and lead guitarist Ernie C. This is also the final album to feature drummer Beatmaster V, who passed away of leukemia, as well as rhythm guitarist D-Rock the Executioner, who died of lymphoma. The style of this band and the album is hardcore punk, thrash metal, and a little bit of rap metal. The lyrical topics are more street-oriented, just like its hip-hop material. Also features references to O.J. Simpson and Dr. Kevorkian. The single for the album is I Used to Love Her, with the O.J. Simpson reference. My go-to tracks on the album, the first one would be My Way, featuring the hip-hop group Raw Breed. Truth or Death, Violent Demise, Root of All Evil, Dead Man Walking, You're Fucking with BC, and the song Dr. K, which is fronted by guitarist Ernie C. And a side note, Ernie C used to front Body Count originally, as well as being Ice-T's guitar player for his hip-hop solo albums. Number 7. Bruce Dickinson, Accident of Birth. The fourth solo album by Iron Maiden vocalist. The lineup also consists of Iron Maiden guitarist Adrian Smith, as well as guitarist Roy Z. The singles of the album would be the title track and Man of Sorrows. The quality to this album is pretty comparable to his work in Iron Maiden, and also better than what Iron Maiden was doing without him. And I mean no disrespect to Iron Maiden as a whole. Number 8. Snot, Get Some, Geffen Records. I was never really big into nu metal, but this band really caught my ear. Some friends of mine in high school got me into them a little bit, and I saw them open up for Soulfly when we went to check them out. Maybe it was the hardcore punk influence and the funk guitar they used. This album features the lineup of late vocalist Lynn Strait, guitarist Mikey Doling, who joined Soulfly sometime after, guitarist Sonny Mayo, bassist John Fonstock, and drummer Jamie Miller, who's now currently playing in Bad Religion. The album was produced by Dave Fortman, the guitarist of Ugly Kid Joe. Theo Kogan from the Lunatics provides vocals on the song Mr. Brett. And like I said, this is probably the best album that came out in the nu metal scene in this time frame and in the mainstream. And before wrapping this up, I want to mention a couple of records I liked, such as Helmet, Aftertaste. Not a great record, but not a bad one either, but I think I should go back to it and listen to it again and maybe judge, tell you maybe another time. Flotsam and Jetsam, the album High on Metal Blade Records. This is when they were dropped from MCA Universal. You could tell they were going back to their thrash roots a little bit and still providing radio-friendly cuts. It is a great start-to-finish record as a whole, but my go-to track on the record would be High Noon. Exodus, Another Lesson in Violence on Century Media Records. This is a live album reunion when Paul Bailoff returned as their vocalist, where they performed the entire album of Bonded by Blood and 3 cuts from the second album, Pleasures of the Flesh. They also performed the track The Impaler, which was written during the Kirk Hammett era before he joined Metallica. Voivod, Phobos, the second and final album for the 3-piece lineup. This album features the songs Embody, co-written by Jason Newsted of Metallica, and Forlorn, co-written by members of the band Crisis. I would say, yeah, it's a very bizarre record, but it is Voivod, and every fucking album is bizarre in their own fucking unique way, and that's why we love it. Machine Head, The More Things Change. It's another one of those albums I have to be in the mood for, but probably something I listened more to, when I was in high school or something, but I still find the album good. And there you have it. Thank you for checking out Mean Street Journal. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good shit. Any suggestions? Just hit me up in the comments. Just don't be a dick. And if you dig my content, feel free to donate. It'll be much appreciated. And check out Mean Street Journal guests on YouTube and Spotify. tpublic.com has Mean Street Wear for your offensive apparel needs as well.